This stick is beautiful. This is the most beautiful thing in the world. It's evidence of the spaghetti monster. Make a more beautiful stick. Oh, you can't because it's my subjective opinion that the stick is
But
beautiful.
that's
Okay,
not the
I win. That's
challenge.
evidence of the spaghetti
But
monster.
that,
That's how
but that's not
stupid
the
what you just
challenge.
said is.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I stumbled across this absolutely wild debate between TJump and a Muslim apologist. And let me tell you, this gets heated fast. The Muslim apologist claims that the Quran itself is evidence for God because of how beautiful the Arabic language is, and that nobody in history has ever been able to match its literary perfection. TJump completely dismantles this argument using one of the most brilliant analogies I have ever seen involving a stick and the flying spaghetti monster. And honestly, watching this unfold is like watching someone's entire worldview collapse in real time. So make sure you watch until the end, and please comment down below where you are watching from. I really love to see people from all over the world connecting in here. All right, now let's get into the video.
Yeah. So should I ask some? Should I respond to TJump basically?
Go for it.
All right. I noted his points. Okay. So TJump said is that there's no evidence for the sky daddy, right? So for Muslims it's not an issue because we do have the evidence, and it's called the Quran. Okay, because we believe that the Quran is literally the word of God that came from the sky. Okay, so if Christians believe that the word was made flesh, then we believe as Muslims that the word was made book. Okay, which is the Quran. So the Quran actually issues several challenges to non-believers, to disbelievers, to imitate the Quran, to be like it, and to create a surah exactly like it in Arabic with the Arab grammatical rules. And then until today, no one has ever managed to do that. Okay, so of course you may say that this is not objective, this is subjective, but actually there are many scholars, okay, who actually say this challenge is actually very objective. Okay, so there are many excuses from people who don't know Arabic who say that this challenge is meaningless, this challenge has no basis whatsoever, but it's actually a very objective challenge, right? The next point.
So you're
Sorry.
saying that the Quran existing is evidence? Because it's not. I don't know, like a book like Harry Potter, the book Harry Potter existing isn't evidence of Harry Potter being magic. So I don't understand what you think how that is in any way evidence of God, that it was written in a book by farm herders 2,000 years ago or thousands of years ago.
Well, you see, because the Quran was written in a very beautiful Arabic prose, okay, something which no man could ever imitate. So the challenge is simple: to create something of similar value which can defeat the Arabic prose of the Quran.
Okay, yeah, the prose of the Quran aren't evidence of a God. And one, they're not very beautiful; they're pretty crappy. Secondly, we know literally who wrote them, so none of that's evidence. The fact that it's pretty words are not evidence.
But you are just denying. But basically, you're just denying. You're just dismissing the challenge, okay? Because the Quran openly challenges this, right? So if you don't want to accept it, it's not the challenge of trying to imitate the surah of the Quran. See, so if you are just dismissing
then I can't do anything. Of what? What is the challenge?
The challenge is basically to create a surah like the Quran in Arabic.
Okay, Harry Potter is more beautiful in every way than the Quran. Quran defeated.
No, it's not. It's not. It's in English. You have to do it in Arabic.
Because Arabic is not beautiful. Like your subjective opinion about Arabic isn't evidence of a God.
But you are being subjective. But that is your subjective opinion in saying that Arabic is not beautiful. Okay.
Right. So you need to kind of the point. What you presented as evidence was your subjective opinion that Arabic is beautiful is evidence of a God. That's not evidence of God because everybody's subjective opinion.
I would, but as someone who has studied many languages, I mean, I do study English, Malay.
It doesn't matter how many languages you
Chinese,
study. Pretty language isn't an objective.
But basically, feature. I'm saying after having studied so many languages, I find Arabic to be the most beautiful.
I don't care what you think is the most beautiful.
But that's precisely the problem, because you don't care. You see, you're not willing to face the Quranic challenge.
The amount of you studying languages is not evidence of your ability to discover which is the most beautiful. That's not how it works. Beauty, not.
I'm saying that Arabic is a beautiful language based on what I understand.
Okay, so this is where we need to examine the logical structure being presented here, because it reveals a fundamental issue with how evidence is being defined. The Muslim apologist presents the Quran as evidence for God specifically because it exists as a book. Now think about what that framework actually establishes. By this standard, every religious text ever written would serve as evidence for whatever deity it references. The Book of Mormon would validate its theological claims. The Vedas would validate theirs. Ancient Greek manuscripts would validate their pantheon. The logical framework does not distinguish between them. But then we get the linguistic challenge. The claim is that the Quran challenges people to create a surah matching its Arabic grammatical structure and literary quality, and that nobody has successfully done this. TJump recognizes immediately where this argument is heading, because he understands the underlying logical problem. When TJump responds by saying Harry Potter contains more beautiful writing than the Quran, he is demonstrating a crucial point about subjective versus objective standards. Literary beauty is inherently subjective. What resonates as beautiful prose to one reader may seem ordinary to another. You could assemble a panel of literature scholars and they would disagree about whether Shakespeare or Tolkien represents superior writing. Both assessments would be valid within their subjective frameworks, because there is no scientific instrument that measures aesthetic beauty in language. Notice what happens when this gets challenged. The response immediately shifts to, well, you must understand Arabic, you must comprehend the linguistic nuances. But this is actually moving the parameters of the challenge. Now it is not just create something equally beautiful, it becomes create something equally beautiful and accept my subjective aesthetic judgment and demonstrate mastery of this specific language to my satisfaction. These are unfalsifiable conditions. Here is the pattern you see across different apologetics traditions. The argument structure is designed to be immune to counterexamples. Regardless of what evidence or reasoning you present, there is always a fallback position that you simply lack the proper understanding or qualification to evaluate it. This appears in Christian apologetics, Islamic apologetics, and other religious traditions. It is a defensive mechanism rather than genuine evidential reasoning. And this matters because when constructing a worldview, the quality of your foundational reasoning determines everything that follows. If your baseline epistemology relies on circular logic, everything built on that foundation inherits the same flaw.
I don't care. You don't get to make that decision.
If you reject that, that's not exactly the issue here. You see, I mean, I know it's subjective,
yes, it is.
but the point is, the Quran made a challenge, and all you need to do is actually to hire anyone.
You're waffling. You're not addressing the point. The point is that you thinking it's beautiful isn't evidence. That's you making crap up. So you thinking it's beautiful doesn't matter how much you've studied language. Your expertise in knowing languages doesn't assess you to assess beauty objectively. So no, your opinion about which is beautiful is not evidence that it is beautiful, and it's not. And even if it was beautiful, that's not evidence of God. So none of what you said is actually evidence of God. It's just you feel the Quran is beautiful. That's all you said.
No, I'm saying that language is beautiful. I'm not just saying the Quran is beautiful.
That's your opinion, which is not evidence of anything.
Yes, it is evidence if you meet the Quranic challenge.
No.
It's that simple.
Oh my God. That's so stupid. So this stick is beautiful. This is the most beautiful thing in the world. It's evidence of the spaghetti monster. Make a more beautiful stick. Oh, you can't because it's my subjective opinion that the stick is beautiful.
That's not the challenge.
That's how stupid what you just said is.
No, that's not the challenge. That's not the challenge. And you're being subjective. You're just being argumentative. You see?
Oh my God.
You're just pulling at strings.
Oh my God.
Because the Quran
so tell me which part of this
Yeah.
is not your argument. So your argument is I have a beautiful stick. It's beautiful because I've studied sticks a lot, and so I think this is the most beautiful stick. And the
Why would a
reason
stick
it's
be
evidence,
beautiful? That's the point.
don't interrupt. And the reason this is evidence is because you can't make a more beautiful stick based on my subjective opinion. Therefore, this is evidence of my stick god, the spaghetti monster. That's how stupid what you just said is.
But the point is, it's not subjective. It's objective. You can actually measure the beauty of the Quran or basically the Arabic language with certain meters, with certain grammatical rules. Okay. So how are you going to measure the beauty of the stick? No, how are you going to measure the beauty of a stick? Can you tell me how?
That's the
how do you do that?
There's
No, I can
nothing in the
measure. I
Quran is
can
beautiful.
measure the beauty of the Arabic prose, but
Oh,
how are
look,
you
I
going to
can measure the
measure the
length of the
beauty of a
stick. Look
stick?
how beautiful the length of the stick is and how shiny it is. I can measure the shininess of the stick, and that's how beautiful it is. You
Why would the
making shit up isn't
shininess of the
evidence.
stick be beautiful? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that is not the challenge. You are just making up
Yes,
snowmans.
that's the question.
Yeah,
It's like, why
but
is the shininess
there's-
of the stick beautiful? Why is the
but
prose of the language beautiful? It's just stuff you're making up.
no, it's not what I'm making up. This is what the Quran says. Okay.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
So again, you making
but
shit up
okay.
and thinking it's beautiful is not evidence that it's objective. Even
I'm
if
not
it was
making it up.
beautiful, that still wouldn't be evidence.
It's something very objective.
What TJump does here is absolutely brilliant from a philosophical standpoint, because he takes the exact logical structure being used and applies it to an intentionally absurd scenario to expose the flaw. He presents this hypothetical, beautiful stick and declares it evidence for the spaghetti monster, then issues the same challenge. Make a more beautiful stick. Cannot do it? Well, then my claim must be valid. This is called reductio ad absurdum, and it is one of the most effective tools in logical analysis. You take someone's reasoning, apply it consistently to a different scenario, and demonstrate that the reasoning itself is broken because it produces absurd conclusions. If subjective aesthetic judgment can serve as evidence for supernatural claims, then that same standard validates literally any supernatural claim anyone wants to make. The logical framework cannot distinguish between valid and invalid claims because it is not actually based on evidence. The response we hear is that the beauty of the Quran can be measured objectively through grammatical rules and linguistic patterns. But this misunderstands what objective measurement means. You can objectively measure linguistic complexity. You can count syllables, analyze sentence structure, document vocabulary range. These are quantifiable metrics. But beauty? Beauty is a qualitative human judgment. It is subjective by its very nature. Consider how this plays out in literary criticism. Academic scholars spend entire careers debating what constitutes great literature. Some argue Hemingway's minimalist approach represents peak writing excellence. Others find it underwhelming and prefer elaborate descriptive prose. Who has the objective answer? Neither, because they are evaluating based on different aesthetic values and personal literary preferences. This is why we have different genres, different styles, different schools of literary thought. There is no universal beauty standard you can apply. What makes this exchange particularly significant is the accusation that TJump is just being dismissive or argumentative, but that is not what is happening here. He is engaging with the logical structure and pointing out where it fails. When you identify circular reasoning, that is not dismissal. That is analytical critique. That is how rational discourse is supposed to function. And notice the Muslim apologist never actually addresses the stick analogy directly. The response keeps circling back to the original challenge without acknowledging that the challenge itself contains the logical flaw being highlighted. This is a common pattern when someone is defending a position they have not arrived at through evidence-based reasoning. When the foundational logic gets exposed, the tendency is to reassert the original claim rather than address the critique. TJump calls this out directly by pointing out the deflection, and he is correct. When you cannot defend the logical structure of your argument, changing the subject or accusing your opponent of not understanding is not a valid defense. The foundation still has the same problem.
Yeah, it's something. I mean,
No,
if you want to reject
No,
it, it's
not.
fine by me. I can move on. I have several points here.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can be so deluded to think that because you think it's beautiful, that's objective. That's literally the opposite of objective. Like, oh my God.
It's not about being beautiful. It's about meeting the Quranic challenge to defeat the Arabic prose of the Quran. It's not just about beauty. It's not just about
you don't understand how evidence works.
Matters. Yeah.
You presenting a challenge.
I don't think you're understanding how the Quranic challenge is.
Just because there are so many points that were brought up, this one we've definitely delved into pretty well. Maybe it's time that we move into a different one.
Sure, is there any other evidence?
Okay. Yeah.
Is there any
evidence? I have a lot here. I have a whole
list
here. I have a whole list here. All right.
Okay, give me one at a time. Just one.
Yeah,
give me one.
Sure, I can do that. Let me see now. Yeah, you said that you say that just now that there's no evidence of God because you cannot see God, but not seeing God, not knowing.
I never said that.
I mean, that's pretty much what you meant. Okay, so
no, it's not at all.
You say
what
that there's no evidence for God.
Basically,
you're saying
don't
evidence for God.
You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what my position is.
Okay, sure. Then can you repeat your? Okay, sure. Then you repeat your argument. Why don't you?
There's no evidence of God. Give me evidence.
Exactly. So because you say that there's no evidence of God, therefore there's no God. I mean, that's just For me, that's just argument from silence. I mean, just because something doesn't have an evidence doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay.
Yes, but that's not the argument.
Yeah. So anyway, can you show me evidence that there is no God?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most things
How do
human
you
make
show
up
it?
in. So
How do you show it? How do you
okay,
show
I'm
it?
literally doing that. So stop interrupting. Most things people make up in their head are imaginary and don't exist. The God belief is something people made up in their head with no evidence. Therefore, it's reasonable to believe the God belief is imaginary, just like all the other things people make up in their head. Conclusion, it's rational to believe God is an imaginary thing made up in human's head and nothing more.
So if I imagine that your mother doesn't exist, does it mean your mom didn't exist?
Did you not understand the argument here? So the argument is most things people make up in their head with no evidence are not real things. They're imaginary things. If you have an idea which someone has made up in their head and it has no evidence, then it's reasonable to conclude it's an imaginary thing. Your mother has evidence. So it's not just something people made up in their head. It's something people made up in their head and has evidence.
But I don't have evidence that your mom exists.
Yes, you do.
What is the evidence?
This is where TJump makes the philosophical distinction absolutely clear. He points out that claiming something is objectively beautiful based on your personal judgment is self-contradictory. Objective means independent of personal opinion. Subjective means based on personal opinion. You cannot use your subjective assessment as proof of objectivity. That is definitionally incoherent. Then we see a shift in the argumentative strategy with what is called an argument from silence. The claim becomes that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And superficially, this sounds reasonable until you examine what it actually does to the burden of proof. In rational discourse and epistemology, the person making a positive claim bears the responsibility of providing evidence for that claim. Here is why this principle matters. If we accepted that unfalsifiable claims deserve equal consideration to evidence-based claims, we would have no reliable method for distinguishing reality from imagination. Every conceivable supernatural entity, every mythological creature, every invented deity would have to be treated as potentially real, simply because we cannot prove a universal negative. That is not a functional epistemology. That is not how we navigate reality in any other domain of life. TJump handles this by pointing to statistical reasoning. When humans throughout history have invented explanatory entities without evidence, those entities have consistently turned out to be human inventions rather than real phenomena. This is not being dismissive of possibilities. This is being rational about probabilities and evidence standards. The mother analogy at the end is particularly instructive because it demonstrates the difference between evidence-based claims and faith-based claims. The question is whether there is evidence for the Muslim apologist mother existing. TJump explains that yes, there is substantial evidence. The apologist exists. We have comprehensive scientific understanding of human reproduction. We have documented biological processes that are observable and testable. This is empirical evidence that can be verified independently. Compare that to claims about supernatural entities. One is grounded in observable reality that anyone can examine and verify through established scientific methods. The other relies on ancient texts, subjective interpretation, and unfalsifiable assertions. These are not equivalent categories of claims. Treating them as equivalent is a category error. What this entire exchange reveals is the challenge of using logical argumentation to defend positions that were not arrived at through logical argumentation. If someone believes something based on cultural upbringing, personal experience, or faith tradition, that is their choice. But when you attempt to present that belief as logically demonstrated or evidentially supported, you are inviting rational critique. And if the reasoning does not hold up under examination, honest response is to acknowledge that faith and evidence are different paths to belief, not to insist that the logical flaws do not exist. This is not about whether people should or should not hold religious beliefs. This is about intellectual honesty in how we present and defend those beliefs. Evidence-based reasoning has specific standards and requirements. If your position cannot meet those standards, that is valuable information about the nature of your belief. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.